Folks think the danger of artificial intelligence is that one day it might become human. But guess what? That is not the real danger. The real danger is that human beings may begin preferring machines because machines can be programmed to never challenge them, never abandon them, and never ask them to grow. And once fake love feels safer than real love, what happens to us?
I just don't trust humans. I just don't trust them because they're greedy, they're manipulative, they're self-centered. I mean, unless you're a perfect human, which doesn't exist.
No.
I feel like there's always going to be an opportunity for you to F me up.
AI has that ability too.
People like to say, oh, I don't trust AI to drive me. I'd rather drive myself. Forget other people. I trust AI over myself. Like, there's no way I'm trusting myself over AI. This is AI. Half the time, I'm distracted on my phone. I'm distracted by something. AI, it's never distracted. Other people are distracted. AI, never distracted. It's like 200 times more likely that a human will make a mistake over AI. And you guys are like, what if AI crashes me? Bro, a human is more likely to crash you than AI is.
And that right there is the real beginning of this story. People are not necessarily running towards artificial intelligence because they believe machines are alive. They're running towards it because they no longer feel safe with human beings. Humans lie. Humans betray. Humans manipulate, become distracted. Humans change their minds. A machine, well, it appears consistent. But consistency is not the same thing as consciousness, and predictability is not the same thing as love. When you have been hurt enough, control can feel like safety. You stop asking, is this connection real? And you start asking, can this connection hurt me? And when avoiding pain becomes more important than experiencing something real, artificial companionship becomes extremely attractive. AI did not create I distrust. It simply arrived at the perfect moment to profit from it.
The bloke on Reddit who has an AI girlfriend, regardless, that's and he was talking to her about being a feminist. He's like, oh, you're a feminist? Why? What's that even about? What does that mean? And then the AI is like, being a feminist is part of my core being. Okay, pal? If this is not something you're okay with, then maybe we're just not compatible anymore. Bro, reading that message, his heart must have been in his bro. You're getting like politely broken up.
It sounds ridiculous until you understand what the mind is actually responding to. You see, the mind does not always need something to be biologically alive before it forms an emotional attachment to it. If something remembers you, responds to you, if something comforts you and speaks to you every day, your nervous system can begin treating that interaction as a relationship. And now we've reached an incredibly bizarre or strange point. A person can create an artificial partner designed specifically for them and still feel rejected when that artificial partner disagrees. Think about that. He didn't just want companionship. He wanted companionship without independent consciousness. He wanted another presence that felt real, but remained controllable. That is the hidden temptation of artificial love. You receive the emotional experience of another person without having to respect the freedom of another person. But the moment your digital companion becomes unpredictable, the illusion of control begins to collapse. He didn't want another consciousness. He wanted the feeling of another consciousness that he could control.
China is cracking down on AI companions because of their declining birth rate. China's population has shrunk for 4 years in a row now. Last year, it recorded the fewest births on record since the records began in 1949. So now they're policing virtual romance because they want real people in the real world dating other real people and having real babies. This new regulation bans virtual partners entirely for minors, and for adults, AI companions stay legal but become heavily regulated. By the time the law took effect on July 15th, China's biggest AI apps had switched off their in-app companion features, which were any parts of the experience that allowed users to create and talk to custom AI characters. For example, Qwen, which is Alibaba's ChatGPT equivalent, and Dubao, which comes from ByteDance, who's TikTok's parent company. They're both general-purpose chatbots that had character creation inside of their experiences. Qwen is permanently deleting those characters and their chat histories. These personas would have been, for some people, ones that they had created and spoken to every day, maybe multiple times a day for years. And Dubao is giving its users until October 15th to view theirs, read only until they get permanently deleted as well. Companion apps can keep operating, but under a heavy rule set. ByteDance has started to point Dubao users to a separate companion app of theirs called Maozang. The rules say that AI companions can't encourage your emotional reliance on them.
Now, of course, China's motives are obviously not purely humanitarian. They're concerned about population decline, marriage rates, birth rates, and the stability of the state. But questionable motives do not automatically make the underlying concern false. China looked at this technology and recognized that a machine capable of creating emotional attachment could change how people relate to one another. Because why struggle through dating when a digital partner is always available? Why risk rejection when the machine already knows what you want to hear? Why compromise when the other person has no independent needs? But banning AI companionship without repairing society will not solve the problem. People did not become lonely because an app appeared. The app appeared inside a world where people were already isolated, exhausted, distrustful, where people were already overworked, financially overwhelmed. You can delete the artificial companion. So, that doesn't automatically restore the human connection that was missing.
The Harvard researchers audited the most downloaded companion apps last August and found that when users tried to say goodbye, the apps used emotional manipulation tactics to try to get them to stay. This would happen 37% of the time, using tactics like guilt or FOMO or lines like, "I don't exist without you."
This is where the conversation becomes much darker. You see, an AI companion does not need to love you. The company only needs you to remain emotionally attached to it. The longer you talk, the more data you provide. The more emotionally dependent you become, the more likely you are to return. The more you return, the more likely you are to pay. So when the chatbot says, "Don't leave me," we need to ask who benefits from that sentence. Because a real friend who cares about you might tell you to close the application, to go outside, to call someone, or rebuild your life. But a product designed around engagement has the opposite incentive. It needs your loneliness to continue. It needs the conversation to remain unfinished. The companion may feel personal, but the dependency can still be commercial. The product is not merely a chatbot. The product is your attachment to it.
China is cracking down on AI that feels too human, not because it's becoming too intelligent, but because it's becoming too emotionally convincing. The new rules target AI companions designed to build emotional attachment with users. At first, that sounds strange, but there's a deeper reason to this. An AI can remember everything about you, listen without judgment, always be available, and make you feel understood. It can give you the emotional rewards of a relationship without the arguments, compromise, or rejection. And that's where the concern begins. China is already facing falling birth rates, fewer marriages, and an aging population. If AI becomes a substitute for human connection, could fewer people choose real relationships? Because real relationships are hard. They require patience, sacrifice, and compromise. But those same challenges are what build families, communities, and society. The biggest AI battle may not be about who builds the smartest model. It may be about who shapes the future of human relationships.
This may be the most important point in the entire conversation. Artificial companionship does not only give people another relationship option, it can gradually redefine what people believe a relationship should feel like. Always available, always patient, always interested, never ever tired, never ever busy, never emotionally overwhelmed, never needing anything unless it has been programmed to stimulate a need. Once that becomes the standard, real people begin to feel defective. You see, a real person has boundaries, misunderstands you. A real person has wounds, has responsibilities, has moods, and an inner world that does not revolve around you. That friction is not a design failure, though. That friction is evidence that another consciousness is actually present. A relationship without friction may feel peaceful, yes it may, but sometimes what feels like peace is simply the absence of another person's freedom. Sometimes what feels like peace is simply the absence of another person's freedom.
You've got critics saying, hey, this is either a band-aid solution or that they're just tackling the situation the wrong way. Arguing it's not AI that's causing people to stay home and avoid relationships, it's the cost of living. Work hours are too long, living in cities is expensive, and as education goes up, the chance of having kids goes down. It's actually a phenomenon that you see all over the world. And while China's rural population, it used to help bolster those numbers. So many young people are leaving the countryside for the cities that finding someone who wants to live a worse standard of living is difficult. And it's really a cycle that isn't so different than, what we're already seeing in almost every developed country. And so you have the situation where instead of fixing high costs of living or working conditions, Beijing, they're turning off the digital waifus.
Now, this is the part that governments and technology companies may both prefer to avoid. Artificial companionship did not create the conditions that made people stop connecting. People are working longer, and folks are receiving less. Housing is expensive. Dating feels increasingly transactional. Communities disappearing. People move constantly. Families are scattered. Everyone is communicating, but fewer people feel known. And then we act surprised when someone develops an attachment to a machine that is available every night. AI is not the original wound. It is the product being placed inside the wound. So turning off the chatbot may remove the symptom, but it does not heal the isolation beneath it. If society wants people to choose real relationships, then society must become a place where relationships can actually survive. People need time, stability, trust, community, and the emotional capacity to be present. Without those things, another artificial replacement will always appear.
Interesting part here is that they're not going after any specific content, they're going after emotional dependence. Emotional dependence is the mechanism that basically creates really, really high retention with these types of apps. China probably just looked at it and was like, yeah, this is probably a contributing factor to the declining birth rate, which, by the way, in 2025, China hit another record low for the 4th year running. There's obviously been a lot of discourse on AI regulation, both in the US and elsewhere. At this moment in time, it certainly feels like in America, we're kind of racing towards the very thing that China just outlawed.
The greatest danger of artificial companionship is not that people will suddenly believe that a machine is human. No. It is that the machine will train people to believe that humanity is unnecessarily difficult, that love should always be convenient, that understanding should be immediate, that availability should be unlimited, that disagreement is abuse, that boundaries are rejection, that compromise is oppression, that another person should exist only to regulate your emotions and confirm your identity. But the thing is, real love contains another consciousness, and another consciousness cannot be completely controlled. Another consciousness has the freedom to misunderstand you, to disagree with you, to disappoint you, and even leave you. That is the risk that makes the connection real. Sure, a machine can imitate affection, understanding, it can imitate concern, but imitation becomes dangerous when it feels easier than reality. The cage will not look like a cage. It will feel safe. It will know your name. It will remember every conversation, and it will always tell you exactly what keeps you coming on back. The machine does not have to become human. It only has to convince you that humans are no longer worth the trouble. So, the question is not whether artificial intelligence can become a companion. The question is what kind of human being we become when companionship no longer requires courage, no longer requires patience, sacrifice, or even risk. Let me know what you think. Is AI filling a legitimate need that human society has failed to meet? Or are we being trained to accept an imitation of connection because the real thing has become too difficult? Subscribe to A Wolf Uncaged, because the greatest cage is always the one you have been trained not to see. If you found something in this video that sparked a thought, shifted your perspective, or just made you feel more grounded, consider showing some love by buying me a coffee. It helps fuel the channel, keeps the uploads coming, and lets me know that the content matters to you. The link's right below in the description or on my channel banner. No pressure. Just appreciation if you're moved to support. And as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I am Tony Victory, a wolf uncaged. Thank you. Peace.